Hey, this is Jill Ciminillo, and this week's car du jour is something that is a little bit different. It is the 2022 Lexus IS 500. Now, we've looked previously at the regular IS models, which are a little bit less horsepower, but this is really special. This is going to be the first model in Lexus's F-Sport Performance series. And so what I want to do in this review is I want to take a look at the engine, because that is what is going to really set this vehicle apart. Then we're going to look at some of the details that if you just see this going down the road, you'll say, hey, that's something special. And finally, we're going to finish out with what I like and what I don't like on this vehicle. There are a couple of things. So let's take a closer look right now. All right, now that I have the hood popped, I want to talk just a little bit about the engine. I'm not going to get too far into the weeds here because, frankly, I'm not that technical, and you can probably get better technical information from someplace else. But I did want to take a look here because this is a naturally aspirated 5.0 liter V8 engine. This is the first time we've seen a V8 engine in the IS since the old ISF many moons ago, and so far I've been having a blast in this car. Like I said, I only have a couple days in it, but highway mergers are definitely fun. So it's going to deliver 472 horsepower and 395 pound-feet of torque. And 0 to 60 mile per hour times are going to be in the 4.5 second range. And I was looking at a car driver article, and they said that they actually thought that was going to be a little bit conservative. I can neither confirm nor deny that I have tested that, and I'm not going to tell you what times I got, but I'm just going to tell you this is a lot of fun. And if you're tooling around town, merging with traffic, doing some aggressive passing maneuvers, yeah, this does very well with that. Now, other than the engine, there are going to be a couple of visible differences that you will see on this vehicle that set it apart from the other two IS models. And the most visible is probably going to be this right here. The hood is raised about 2 inches, and it makes it look a lot more aggressive. As you move around the vehicle, here you have some 19-inch NK wheels, and then continuing back, you'll notice this trim here. It is a dark chrome trim, so that is also one of the major visible differences. Now, finally, you're going to notice in the back of the vehicle, there is a quad exhaust system. So you don't get that in the regular IS models. Now, something that you can't see is going to be the fact that this vehicle is also tuned a little bit differently. So you'll have Sport S and Sport S Plus modes, and that just kind of uses a specific engine transmission mapping system, and it will make your throttle response a little bit more aggressive and also tighten up your steering a little bit. So if you want to drive a little bit more aggressively, it will let you do that, and it will let you have fun while doing that. All right, so now that we've talked about the engine, we've talked about some of the visible differences on this vehicle, I'm just going to hop right into what I like and what I don't like about the Lexus IS 500. There's actually a lot to like here, and the first thing I'm going to point out is, yes, there is a trackpad, but wait for it, this is also a redundant touchscreen. So you do have your menu controls right here that you have to hit that are in front of the trackpad to get to some of your menu screens. But overall, this right here functions a lot better rather than having to use this trackpad. Now, as you can tell, I'm in a far forward driving position. So for somebody like me to use this trackpad, I'm kind of doing this awkward chicken wing thing as I'm trying to hit this right here, and it's not intuitive, it's not ergonomically correct, and it's just very distracting. So the fact that, okay, I can hit my map or my menu buttons here, and then I can adjust everything from here, makes my life a lot easier, and it makes this trackpad a little bit more tolerable, even though I still don't like it. Another thing that I really like is the dual climate control system you've got going on here. So I know I've said this in other reviews, but I'm habitually cold. My husband is habitually hot. And when we get into a car together, and if they don't have the dual automatic climate controls, one of us is not going to be happy, and I'm driving, so I'm going to be happy. And so my poor husband is a little bit out of luck with the 79-degree temperatures that I put into the car. But in the IS 500, you have the dual climate control, so I can keep mine at like 78, 79. He can set his at 68. He's happy. But then you also have the heated and cooled seats. So yeah, I actually have my heated seats on right now, and it's 84 degrees. But he has his cooled seats on. So again, we are both very comfortable. because you have this dual climate control action, and that is definitely something that I really appreciate on pretty much any vehicle these days. I also like the placement of these cup holders. I do give cup holders a hard time very often in my reviews because they interfere with how you drive. But what Lexus has done that I think is really good here is they've not only moved it behind the gear shift, but also over. So if I need to touch this gear shift, or even if I'm changing my drive modes, these don't really get in my way. Now, obviously, my cup holder, or my water bottle is a little bit big, bigger than probably most normal people would carry, but I always have it with me, so it's always very noticeable. Now, if you're gonna have a tall Starbucks, it's not gonna get in the way regardless, but I like the placement of the cup holders. I think that this works really well from a driving standpoint because you're not gonna hit anything in here when you are trying to deal with anything here. I also really like the largeness of the screen. I like the way that the map and all of the graphics fill out the entire screen, and you have the choice between doing a full screen like map, or you can have a split screen going on, and then you can change what you see in this split screen over here depending on whether you want your audio, or you can even put some climate control functions in there, and I like that. But if you want the full map, you can just make it disappear with the press of a section on the screen, and you've got your full map back. Another thing that I really like is going to be the attention to detail in this vehicle. So you have some reverse stitching, you have the perforated seats, you've got the stitching on the dash. I like the analog clock here, and if you look really closely in the analog clock, you can see a little recurring L motif logo in there that I think looks really cool as well. I love even the way the air vents look, and specifically I like these round air vents on the outer corners of the dash because to me it looks a little bit like a bullseye, or maybe even a G-meter. So I think that looks really good. And finally, the last thing I want to point to that I really like on the ISF is going to be the behind the wheel gauge cluster. And it has that sporty look that moves. So you do have an analog ring, but the interior of that ring is digital, and the way that Lexus manages to have this analog ring with the digital gauges working together, I think it's very classic and very well done. And you can change how it looks, and that circle moves so that you get some sportier performance pages, including the G-force meter on the left side of the gauge. And you can scroll through gear positions, tire pressure, some things like that. But I like the fact that you can kind of configure the gauge cluster how you want it to look, if you want it to be a little bit sporty, or if you just want to go back to normal functions and just see like the engine temperature versus the fuel gauge cluster. So I don't know, I really like how that works. I also really like the intro graphic that shows up behind the gauges when you are turning the vehicle on. So kind of in summary, I like pretty much how the interior looks. From the gauge cluster to the large screen to the attention to detail, I think they've done a really nice job on the Lexus IS 500. I have to say I had a pretty big like list, but my do not like list is going to be pretty small, and I'm really reaching to pull some things out here that I don't like about the IS 500. And I'll start with this right here. This to me just looks a little bit dated, not to mention the fact that you've got some black lacquer going on, so this is going to fingerprint really easily, and you know, could bother some people who have a little bit of OCD because that's also going to get dusty. I don't mind this control here that you slide for your heat or cooling. I think that actually looks pretty good, but the buttons themselves are a little bit dated. The black lacquer could be a little bit annoying, and then you have this weird juxtaposition between the black lacquer and then this matte black plastic going on, and I don't know, I don't really like how that works together. So this definitely needs a little bit more of a refresh or an update or a rethink coming soon, and hopefully with that rethink is going to be taking away the trackpad. And I do know for a fact that Lexus is revamping their infotainment system, which will take away the trackpad, and that can't come soon enough because to me this is kind of pointless. as I said, you've got this touchscreen, but then you have this weird trackpad going on, and it's kind of awkward. So I say get rid of it, take it away. I don't like it. Now the final thing that I don't like on the IS 500 is going to be not the screen, but the fact that you have CarPlay and it's not wireless. Now, there isn't any wireless charging in here, so maybe it's not a huge deal. If you want to charge your phone, you're going to have to wire in anyway. But as you are updating these vehicles, and this is a 2022 model, I want to see a little bit more wireless stuff going on. So wireless charging as well as wireless CarPlay and Android Auto would be a huge hit. So this does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, it's just not wireless. And in order to wire in, you've got to open up your armrest and you've got to stick the wire in here, and then you've got to bring the wire out, and then where do you put your phone? Because if you have two cups in your cup holders, you're not going to be able to put it in your cup holder, so I guess you just leave your phone in the armrest. I don't know. But that is going to round out my do not like list, and really, like I said, I'm just picking nits here because this vehicle is pretty awesome. Alright, we have gotten to the point in the review where it is time for me to give you a couple of driving impressions before I wrap this up. And what I want to say is Lexus has done a really good job of making this a fast, fun vehicle without sacrificing too much of the comfort. Now, you are going to experience some of the bumps and the, as you can feel it now, the bumps and the grooves in the road when you hit some rough surfaces, especially when you're in Sport Plus mode like I am right now. But you still have a pretty comfortable flow to this vehicle. From the seats to the suspension, it's not overly stiff. And the cabin itself is really quiet. So I like this vehicle because it is fast and fun and has just the right amount of luxurious amenities. Now, does it need some updates? Yes. But does the engine and the 472 horsepower more than make up for it? Hell yes. All right, that's it. That's all I've got. So I just want to say thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time with a new Car to Shore. But what I want to do is I just want to talk about this a little bit, and then we're going to, okay, aggressive, mean look, and, okay, I'm going to start that again. Now, while my like list is a lot, now the final thing that I don't like on the, I'm like, what was the, oh. So if you're looking for something that is both sporty and fun and can hold some smaller adults in the back, I think this is your, no, I don't want to say that either.